with your feet in the air, head on the ground. Try this trick and spin it, yeah, yeah. And your head will collapse, 'cause there's nothing in it. And you ask yourself, where's my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
Tony missing out on the interim title shot turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It's crazy to think, but had Khabib taken a deal with Nevada and signed to fight Tony in April, the fight would have likely been cancelled for a fifth fucking time. It seems even hypothetical Tony versus Khabib fights are doomed. In the middle of March, Tony's mental health hit the wall, a fact which first came to light when Dana revealed somewhat cryptically that Tony was dealing with some personal issues. 2 days later, it emerged Tony's wife had taken out a restraining order. The episode involved a mental break in which Tony experienced paranoid delusions with regards to the idea that his wife might take his son off to Italy, and it resulted in a confrontation where Tony forcibly took the child. His wife then took out a restraining order, and his son was returned to her by the police. According to MMA Fighting, the child was well taken care of, and Tony willingly relinquished custody. Now, couples getting into heated disputes regarding the custody of kids is not that uncommon, but unfortunately, this news was accompanied by descriptions of repeated paranoid and delusional behavior, dating back to early February. Now, I'm not going to go into too many details here. In fact, when the story was unfolding, I felt a little bad for Tony, in terms of the number and nature of details that entered the public domain through the various police and court documents. It just seemed a little much to me. But suffice to say, he was at times really struggling to interpret reality in a reasonable manner and was behaving extremely erratically based on terrible paranoid delusions and hallucinations. It was grim. His behavior was at times completely manic, off the fucking wall. He was clearly a very sick man. Whenever a story emerges of a wife getting a restraining order or any type of domestic situation, people are often justified in rushing to judgment. But she did a good job of maintaining Tony's reputation throughout the whole thing. She didn't give people time to speculate or assume the worst. The day after news of the restraining order broke, she released the following statement. Tony Ferguson is a good husband and good father to our son. The current legal proceedings are part of a process to ensure that Tony will receive the help necessary to continue being the best possible, as well as to pursue his passion and career as a UFC champion fighter. All positive well wishes are sincerely appreciated, and I hope our privacy will be respected. So she was very proactive in clarifying everything, and that was really to Tony's benefit. She made it clear there was no ill will between them. She was supporting her husband, and so the whole episode was framed exactly as it should have been, as a mental health issue. So if Tony is on a terribly unlucky streak in the sport, he does have a lot to be grateful for outside of it. Throughout the whole thing, and despite the restraining order, there was never a sense of a woman abandoning a sinking ship. And some people might say, well, that's the nature of marriage, but if you read the reports, she could easily be forgiven. Police have been to her house 5 times in 14 fucking months, and there was some frightening fucking shit in that time. So, the lady is persevering. She's sticking with her man through thick and thin. Good for them. One thing that was pretty clear from the get-go was that this wasn't a brief psychotic episode like Rampage had years ago. Instead, it represented a long-standing pattern of mental illness dating back to 2011. Behavior which had been helped by medication, but recently exacerbated terribly by booze. Which, as we all know, booze is a fucking demon. It's like pouring gasoline on your problems. So, I won't speculate, but his condition looks long-term, something he'll likely be grappling with or managing for the rest of his life. And that is a rough roll of the dice. When your own mind starts working against you, that's the stuff of fucking nightmares. But Tony is a tough motherfucker. One of the things that really surprised me about this whole thing was the difficulty in reconciling the reports of Tony's erratic, unhinged behavior with the positive and totally rational manner in which he's embraced help. 2 days after news of the restraining order broke, Tony tweeted the following. Now, before I read this, I just want you to think about all the sensational shit that had come out into the public about Tony in the previous 48 hours. There's a lot of people be hiding under a rock at this point, but not Tony. Champ shit only. Thank you for all the great support. I'm in great spirits. UFC and management are helping me find the help we need. I'm getting all your messages. Keep them coming. Thank you very much for the kind words. My family and team appreciates it. Lots of love, my social media fam. Keep the faith. Couldn't do this shit without you. A few days later, he posted, psychologist's appointment went well. Thanks, doc. Champ shit only. And so, from the moment the story broke, Tony has seemed to be aware of the task at hand, and he hasn't appeared to cling to any paranoid delusions. You're trying to convince someone in the throes of paranoia that the very thing they need is other people's help. That's a tall order. But Tony seemed to fully embrace the road to recovery, which was really great to see. One of the more uplifting aspects of the whole story was that, probably as a result of his wife's early statement and the extensive details that emerged in the media, is that there was no room for speculation. There was obviously nothing malicious or bad-natured that preceded the restraining order. It's just a guy who badly needed help. And so the outpouring of support for Tony was both unanimous and pretty incredible to see. Everyone was on the same page, which is rare. The public forum can be a pretty fucking ruthless place. But universally, from his rivals and other fighters to journalists and fans, the instinct wasn't to mock. Tony got one of the more universal outpourings of solidarity you'll ever see, including an especially brilliant exchange between him and Khabib. On April 5th, Khabib offered some words of support. May God help him. Each person faces their own challenge, and it looks like he will have to go through his own challenge. Let's hope he'll come out as a winner and come back, and hopefully we'll fight one day. Responding to those sincere words of solidarity, Tony tweeted, "Can't wait to snap you down to your knees, Khabib." That is hilarious. I've got a special necktie picked out just for you. This is just brilliant. You know, what else would you expect from Tony? Guy cracks me up. On April 8th, Tony declared he'd passed his medical evaluation and was looking for the Khabib fight. But a week later, it appeared Tony hadn't been cleared by the UFC's doctors.
I don't know if Tony's ready to fight. I don't know if that's absolutely accurate because we haven't had anybody evaluate him yet. But
one of the last things we've heard coming from Tony is that he was apparently offered the McGregor fight. But without confirmation from Dana that he's undergone an evaluation, I'd say that's extremely unlikely. But possibly the most concrete sign of Tony's progress in the last month or so is that his wife has just dropped the restraining order. And so hopefully this entire episode is now in the rear view, and Tony can move on with his life and his career. But with everything that's happened over the last few months, Khabib's suspension, the interim belt, the mental breakdown, it all begs a question, where does it leave Tony? Dana seems pretty adamant about Poirier getting a next shot, which I'm actually not against. I mean, I did not expect that interim belt would mean shit in the context of the lightweight division, and the fight hasn't been announced, but it looks like Dana is keeping his promise here.
This was his fight. This was supposed to be him and Max tonight. This was his fight. He turned it down, you know, and we've made it very clear that the winner of this fight, just like Israel and Kelvin, would fight for the title. So that's the deal. Unless something happens to Dustin Poirier, he gets hurt or gets injured or something happens, he's got the fight.
Poirier-Khabib is rumored to be in September, so that leaves Tony at a loose end till then. And he could sit out and wait. You know, he won't lose his number one contender status no matter what anyone else in the division does in the meantime. And he could probably use a break to work on himself. I mean, his mental issues, they were just last month. A break might be in order here. In that case, Tony could conceivably get a shot as early as December. The UFC might finally put together what is on paper the greatest lightweight clash of all time. But You gotta factor in the Irish wildcard, who's been in training and been vocal about wanting to fight. John Kavanagh says he's had a resurgence in passion, is looking for a challenge, and could fight as early as the summer. Dana says he expects to figure things out pretty soon. So if Conor does manage to pick up a win before September, I think it's unlikely Tony would get the fight over McGregor. And that could leave Tony on the sidelines and out of the title picture for a long time. In an ideal world, Tony would get the fight he wants, but Conor appears to have no interest. And so there appears to be a lot of factors now working against Tony getting a title shot in a reasonable time frame. He's already been leapfrogged by a lower ranked fighter, and he may get leapfrogged again by a higher profile fighter. He's prone to injury, and we now know he's also battling demons outside the cage in terms of his own mind. So there's just no guarantees here. As I've said, there's a lot of variables that could easily delay or even prevent Tony getting his shot, which is a shame. It would be a fucking travesty if he doesn't fight for the belt while he's still in his prime.
I was swimming in the Caribbean. Animals were hiding behind the rocks, except little fish, but they told me he swears trying to talk to me.